Welcome back to another episode of the House Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Peggea, and today I'm very pleased to introduce to you our guest, Melissa.
Hello, Peggea.
How are you doing?
Good, and yourself?
I'm not bad. So, first of all, thank you for coming.
Thank you for inviting me.
So, I've known you all my life, I'd say, because you're like a sister to me. We grew up together. So, but I know you, but they don't know you. So, could you just go ahead and just introduce yourself a little bit, as in like what you do now,
Okay.
and where you live and stuff like that.
All right. So I'm Melissa, like you mentioned. I am currently married, mother of one. I used to live in Ritchie. Came in Ritchie in 2001, if I'm not mistaken. Was here up until 2018. Currently not working because I'm on mat leave. I'm enjoying the perks of Canada. And I church at Senna, which is on Montreal Road. Yeah, pretty much. And that's pretty much it. In the choir, leading prayer. It's pretty much how I keep busy nowadays.
Wow, you do. You definitely do a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
And so first of all, first question is, how is it as a Black woman growing up in Ritchie, in OCH neighborhood?
I would say kind of depends. I can't really speak for everybody because as much as I would like to make my story a generic for every Black girl that grew up in Ritchie, it isn't because people first built differently. Your temper, your personality will actually influence the type of decisions you make. But if I had to give off the bat just an answer like that, I would say that I was not really big on I'm a Black girl growing up in Ritchie. I don't think it was a conversation. Like, I don't think I was ever around a conversation where, like, you're Black and you're in Ritchie. I don't remember those. Like, going back in my early teens, I don't remember any of that. But what I do remember is, like I say, your personality plays a big role. Wherever it is that you're growing up, who you are in the core of your person is what will challenge you in the long run, is what will help you become whoever you're trying to be in the long run. So for myself, the struggle and the issues and the tribulations were different because of my personality, because of the things I was attracted to, because of the things I was facing. But I think in general, every young girl growing in a community like this one, coming up in a immigrant family, being first generation with parents that probably don't speak the language properly, don't understand the system very well, there's the common struggle of having two type of culture being placed on you, if I could say. So there's, if you're African or Arabic, wherever it is that you're from, versus the Canadian culture that you're now getting to embrace. So that's what I would put as a generic, but yeah.
Okay, thank you for sharing. So you mentioned personality played a role in you being part of the community.
Yeah.
And so, were there any struggles that you faced? Maybe just not as like a Black woman, but as like a member of the community.
Yeah. As a member of the community, what I could say, how can I put this? I don't think I was really in the community until my late teens. So in my early teens, I was really about school up until I got caught up in the wrong crowd. But the crowd had nothing to do with the community because it was a mix of people. Some that lived in Ritchie, some that lived down the street, some that actually bused like an hour and a half maybe to get here. So we were not all from Ritchie, but we all hung around Ritchie, right? So that's how I could answer it. I don't think I was really influenced by the community up until later on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but were there example for instances where you've found yourself lacking certain aspect in the community? And if there were, like, can you share a little bit about? Yeah.
Okay, so I know that I never knew, even if I took the bus literally in front of the community house, I never cared for it. Okay, I don't really I don't think I understood the concept of what it was and what it was doing here. I just didn't care because my world had nothing to do with the community house. So when I did face community, I mean issues. My community was my home and my church because we were raised Christian. So if something is going wrong with Melissa, mom and dad were gonna deal with Melissa, and they dealt with Melissa in what they believed was right, according to the rules and regulation of their house. So I didn't get to be mentored by anybody working at the center. I didn't get to be I don't know, mentored by anybody at school either. I was really in my bubble. It was school, church, whenever I did attend, and my friends, right? So who really influenced me were my friends. And I don't think I could label them as Ritchie people because they were not all from here. We did hang around in Ritchie, but they were not all from here.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, yeah, we're a little bit alike because I know when I moved here, I was always inside the house. Inside my house, I didn't get to know the community until later on. I started working during the summer camp. So that just brings the next topic, basically. You mentioned you had a minimal involvement in the community growing up, and then it picked up later on. And as I'm witness of that, as like you were my supervisor at one point. We ended up working together, and you've also done work with United Sisters, I believe, right? Can you tell us a little bit about the United Sisters and work?
Okay, so what I do remember about United Sisters is that we work with Pinecrest Queensway. Like it's not a program that the house runs. So they had their main staff who would work with the staff from the house because they needed to open the house.
Yeah.
They knew the girls better. So we would work together. And pretty much what we try to do was create a safe space. I don't know, I can't really put my finger on an experience where I seen a girl come in a certain way with a certain mindset and leave with a different mindset just because they already knew each other outside from here. So we just gave them a place where they could hang around and have positive influence all around, right? Instead of letting them run around in the neighborhood and see certain things that they shouldn't see. So we had cooking, we had drawing, crafting, movies. I remember we did a few trips here and there, but the goal was really to create a safe space for those girls where they could talk to each other. Not necessarily only people that looked like you, but girls of your age, to create that atmosphere where you learn to socialize with somebody that has a different faith value, that comes from a different background, that has different opinion, that's being raised differently. So that's a little bit of the experience I had running United Sisters.
Okay. So what would you say working with these young girls, young women, most of them now actually, what are some skills that you think they lack that they missed?
I think there's not enough emphasis on self development, if that's even how you say it. Yeah, self growth. I think we were so caught up on giving them activities, keeping them busy, that we didn't really deal with what they need in order to know who they are, to stand up for themselves, to understand the values that they're being installed with at home, how to carry themselves with those same type of value in society. Because when you really think about it, when you get older and you enter the real world, you enter a melting pot. You can't just blend in with everybody. You can't just go about changing personality every now and then. You just can't do that. So those are the type of things that I think we should start teaching them from a very young age. It's cute for you to know how to bake. It's great for you to have that surrounding where you get to play with, because don't forget the kids go to school together. So it's not United Sister getting them together. They already play in the yard together. So right now they just finished math, science, French, whatever it is they study at school. They're coming in the community to play again. So if United Sister was not open, they'll probably be at the park running. So what can we do in order for them to actually dig deep within, create those, create an environment where it's a lot more about self-discovery and self-acceptance. Like you talked about being black, like equip them for the real world. Like somebody will be racist, whether it's directly or indirectly. Somebody will judge you based on your religion, whether it's directly or indirectly. And I think because we tend to not speak on these topics because it's sensitive, we are actually removing a big component of what makes a person. Because whether you're a believer or not, everybody believes in something. You may say, I don't believe in God, but the fact that you don't believe in God is a system belief. So if you take that component out, like we did in schools, we also take it out of the community, we're stripping ourselves of everything because community is like it's where you're supposed to express your values, your culture, your belief. So I think that's a component missing. The ability of bringing these girls and being able to communicate something that they will take in a long run, like way further than just a great night around food or a movie or an outing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it is very important for anybody, I guess, to develop self growth, self understanding, self nourishment. By that I mean reading books that will help you develop yourself. So what kind of program do you think needs to be implemented to target those skills?
Okay. I know I can't really speak for sure, but I know that nowadays programming have tendency of removing the whole school component, if I could say, because kids are in school all day, so they want them to have fun in after school program. So the program, I heard that you guys do mentoring. I don't know if what program exactly it is, but I know that there's like some teens or young adult that are like mentoring younger ones going into university and like yeah, I don't remember. I think my sister was telling me about it, and I think Mukhtar played in it too. I think he did it, but I think a lot of mentoring would be more interesting, like heart to hearts.
Okay.
Like like have somebody that lives in your neighborhood, knows your struggle, understands your struggle beyond reading it.
Yeah.
So they could walk you through certain things. Maybe you'll be more comfortable speaking to them because they know what you're going through. They don't have the language barrier, they don't have the generational barrier, they don't have the culture barrier. So something around mentorship, like a program that englobes that, if I could say.
Okay. So mentoring is a good aspect
Yeah.
to help teach others to create like autonomy, just like to develop themselves, nourish themselves as well, because they see someone do it, so they most likely want to replicate the same behavior, especially if
Yeah.
that behavior is good.
Yeah.
And so, but I just want to go back a little bit. We talked about your friendship, how you were not really involved in the community as much when you were young, but you
Yeah.
had a lot of friends that you hang around with around the community. So were some of those friends also part of OCH neighborhood?
Yeah, they were from around. Yeah.
And were any of them from outside of the neighborhood or from completely separated from OCH?
Yeah, definitely. And I think what brought us together was our interest, not really where we lived. It was what we were doing. We came together because it's like a basketball team. People don't play on a basketball team because they're all from the same neighborhood.
True.
The interest is ball. So I hung around people that had the same type of interest as I did, regardless of where they lived. Like I was telling you earlier, it's like I didn't really have the notion of I live in Ritchie. Like, yes, people talk double R, Ramsey, Ritchie, but it was not engraved in my mind. Like, it's not something I walked around repping, like I'm from OCH. I didn't know that until somebody brought it to me. And that's why I think it's so important, the mentorship piece, because kids are bombarded with so many things. And if they don't have somebody giving them the right perspective of things, it's easy for them to get caught up in the wrong things. Like I remember once I was walking down into Ritchie, and it was just after an incident happened, and news reporters were all over the place, and they were asking me, "Do you feel safe walking in Ritchie?" And I'm like, "I've been here since I was 12, and at that time I was probably 19, 20. So I was telling the person, I'm just as safe as here as I would be in Barhaven. Your neighborhood does not make you. What you like, your personality, your interests, your upbringing makes you who you are. I know that for myself, most of my friends were coming from single homes, right? One mom is a single parent.
Single parenting.
Yeah. One mom, no dad, and already there's like a lack of balance, right? Compared to me, who came from a home of two parents, I guess you could see that the child has a choice at the end of the day. Like the parents do their part, the community does their part, but there's also a big choice on the child. So looking back on my friendships, looking back on the choices we made, I think the outside world puts a lot of emphasis on who they think we are, and they label us, and they make us believe that we are that. Like whatever label it is, you could fill in the blank. Whatever it is that they want you to believe you are is what they provided you with. So when I was growing up, I was not around people telling me, you live in double R, you live in OCH. This is a low income neighborhood. I didn't have that notion. I just knew my mom moved us from Montreal. We have a house. I have my room. I have food on my table, and that's about it. So everything else that came after that is pretty much just personality, man, that played a big role. Whether it's lack of self-esteem, whether it's too much self-esteem, whatever the case may be, I think that's what plays a big role, because there's great stories within these communities that people don't put light on. There's a lot more graduating people, a lot more business-oriented people, a lot more hardworking people within the OCH community that people don't speak of because it doesn't sell. It's not what people want to hear. People love negativity, so yeah.
So I just want to, you mentioned growing up you didn't really know the whole double R. So I do feel like the whole double R concept is more like recent.
Yeah.
So I was a couple along the the last 5 years, that's where it become a lot recent. But I also mentioned that our perspective when we're inside a community is cool, calm, and collected.
Yeah.
But then when it's outside, it's from a view from outside, it's all negative and stuff like that. And you also mentioned that you feel safe, safe in the community.
Yeah.
So the reason why I touched back again on your friendship dynamics that you have, where you have friends from the OCH neighborhood and outside, is because you have a daughter, right? So some people say that they would not raise the daughter near the hood or OCH. Some say they would.
They would.
So what are your views on that?
My views is that you could die anywhere, anytime, any second. Like God got control on that. I don't care where you are. Look into the news and you're gonna tell me that in Canada, Barhaven, Stittsville, Orleans, Rockland, let's get out of the city and talk about Nunavut, like there's nothing happening. Things happen everywhere. The hearts of people is not guided by where they live. The hearts of people is guided by wickedness. If you're wicked at heart, you will be wicked in your actions. So you could live in Ritchie and have a great heart, and you could live in Ritchie and have a very poor heart. What I think about where you raise your child is about what you have, the means you have. People don't choose to live in Ritchie. I mean, if you're coming here from Congo, from my parents per se, but we made a stop in Montreal. We live in Montreal for a bit. But if you're coming from wherever you're coming from, third world country, and you're coming into a country that does not recognize your diploma, that does not recognize your education, that does not recognize your expertise, and they're telling you start from scratch and you don't got a penny. Do you think Stittsville is going to be welcoming you? No. A neighborhood such as OCH will welcome you. So now if you put a bunch of newcomers in a neighborhood with no understanding of what the system is, no understanding of, because they all came for a better life. So already off the bat, they're lacking information, they're lacking knowledge, they're lacking the language, and they have young kids that they want to raise according to their views and understanding. What do you think is going to birth if you don't give them the right tools? I remember one day talking to Mohammed Sofa, who worked here, who I love dearly actually. He was telling me, like, we're talking about programmings, and I realized that there's a lot of things that society offers, but people living here may not know about it. Why? Because you give me a flyer. I don't read a flyer.
That's true.
You put it in my mailbox. I take it in my conscious, like, and this is what I've seen being done often.
Yeah.
They use it to wipe the windows, or they just never pick it up.
Yeah.
So why would you give me important information in something I don't use? Nowadays, everything is on computer. Thank God people are actually upgrading. But I'm speaking of my time, you know? I'm speaking early 2000. We're not in the same era anymore. But I think the struggles are still common for whoever is just arriving. What do you want me to do if you're giving me the opportunity to be better without having access to that information? You tell me, oh yeah, there's a workshop for you to get a job. PQ, I don't got no money. I'm on welfare. I got 4 kids. By the time I pay rent, pay grocery, I probably have $2 left. How am I gonna get there? Type of thing. So I won't be the one saying I will not raise my child there. I believe that there is means that is provided. There's, like, whatever you have in your hands, what you work with. So I could raise a perfect citizen, an addition for this community in Ritchie, and I could raise a killer in the suburbs. So what's important is the heart of the person. It's not where they live. Is what you're gonna be transmitting. What I'm sharing to my daughter, how I will raise her, what I will give her as value, and culture, and whatever that comes with it is what's gonna make her who she is, not where I raise her.
Would you like your daughter to be aware of those dynamics? Because I do know that there are some people from, some people with our skin color that live in well-off neighborhoods.
Okay.
By well-off, I mean, like, Canada,
Yeah.
Barhaven, all that stuff, Orleans,
Yeah.
all these neighborhoods. And some of them are actually not aware of neighborhoods like ours
Ours,
that exist,
yeah.
right? So would you want your daughter to be aware of those two dynamics?
I think you can expose somebody to what you don't know. I could only teach you what I know. And it'll be kind of a fraud for me to not tell my daughter where I like my system belief, my faith causes me to use where I come from as a testimony. It's a stepping tool. Where I come from and where I'm going is two different things. I'm not where I come from. I'm not where I'm going. It's just a goal. Like I'm reaching somewhere. So I think for me, if I could speak for myself, it's important. But like you said, we talked about self-discovery and educating ourselves and whatnot. I think it's important, even if you don't live in those neighborhood, to know what's around you, because your daughter may not live in it, but she goes to school with somebody that lives there,
definitely.
right? She may have a cousin in that situation where we may not all be wealthy, right? The families, like, dynamic is different. One could make it and the other one didn't. And does that mean you're not going to connect the two? Like, are you going to ditch your sister because you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's just a matter of values. The sets of values you have for yourself is what will trigger whatever path you use.
Okay.
If that even makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. It's just touching up on the value that you mentioned. I feel like our neighborhood has a lot of values. Ritchie has a lot of values. Just the kids have a lot of values that they've developed since they were young. That comes from, like you mentioned, being from African background.
Yeah.
Or just having your parents put values on you, but also the people that surround you.
Yeah.
They have a lot of values. And also, so now you mentioned opportunity. Earlier in the previous question that I asked. So what advice would you give to your younger self, knowing what you know now?
Knowing what I know now, what would I tell myself? Explore. Ask questions. Explore. Don't limit yourself to what is given firsthand. Go deeper. It's like the whole concept of, if I want you to know, like, it's like reading the newspaper. People may say they know Ritchie, but that's because they read the newspaper. If you get to know the people that live in Ritchie, then you could speak of knowing Ritchie. Like, you're speaking of the great values. I know for a fact when I was working here, the girls knew I'm a born-again Christian. They knew I go to church. They knew I sang. So I may not share values with them because some of them were Muslim, but I knew that they were not raised that way. So I would ask them flat out, so your mom is telling you to do that? Like, is your mom telling you to speak to an adult like that? And I mean, I think I needed that. I think that's what we needed. The community was closed up. I was down the street. And I never really walked in here. Like,
That's true, yeah.
I didn't up until I worked. Well, actually, I used it a little bit before working here, but I never walked in here. So I think I would tell to my young self, and whoever is young growing up in neighborhoods like that, if you see a community house, walk in it. You have nothing to lose. Walk in and see what you could find. Walk and ask questions. Explore, because there's a lot of people just like you that went through it and that had great experience. So don't feel less of because you're going through the path of a community house. It's a second family. Like, for the price of nothing. You didn't ask for it, right?
That's true.
So if you're in an OCH neighborhood, a low-income neighborhood, whatever it is called in your area, walk through. Like, you see a community house, you see the big board saying house center, whatever it is that's written, come in. Ask, what program do you guys have? This is my situation. How can you help me? And I think that's what's lacking, right? I know for myself, our parents sheltered us. So because they sheltered the oldest one. I think they understood the game with the youngest one. But for the older cats, they sheltered us. So I hope for parents nowadays, they understand the beauty of having a community house within the neighborhood. I hope that the upcoming generation will make use of it.
So research, exploring is very important. You have a community house, you just go seek answers. If you're interested in something, go, because you mentioned that goes for everything in life. For everything, if you want a job, you're interested in a particular set of skills, explore it, research it. you'll be surprised at how or who in the community has those skills that you're looking for, and it's
Exactly.
just a matter of just seeking out the right people and knowing that I
Exactly.
can go knock at this door, that person's gonna open up.
Yeah.
You know, and that's one thing with the community. We're a very like tight knit community.
Yeah.
We know almost everybody in this community know each other.
Yeah.
We know
We're family.
that's the thing, we're family. We know someone new moved here. In 1 week, we already know who that person is. We have our little sisters already going to the house, being like, "Oh, I'm going to this house." Like, okay, I know who you're going to. You know,
Exactly.
that trust that you have in the community, despite everything that's going on, you have that trust and all this going on. So like that's what, like very like why I think like this community is very like priceless.
Yeah.
You know, there's
Definitely.
the bond that's here. You don't see it anywhere else in different community. From what I've seen, that's
Yeah.
like a subjective opinion. From what I've
Okay,
seen,
yeah.
But is there anything else you would like to add on?
Yeah, well, I guess you said it pretty well. It's a family. I mean, if you have a brother or sister going through it, you don't deny them because of that, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the same thing. I've grew up here and picked up words in other languages because we're so together, right? I picked up on understanding and knowledge of other values and other beliefs and other this, other that, because we're so together. So honestly, that's the only thing I could leave whoever would watch this with, is that if you have a community center near you, a community house, use it, because the government is putting money in it for that reason.
Yeah.
If we don't use it, they take out the
Take it away,
money.
yeah.
So the more they take money away, the less programming we have, the more things we could offer, right? So to make use of it keeps the house running, helps the one in need, and keeps the world running, if I could say. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Melissa, for gracing us with your presence.
Thank you so much.
And for everybody watching, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. This is the House Podcast for us, by us. We're out.